Hello and welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old and new England games and ask just how England was this.
A draw against Denmark and the nation has fallen to its knees. Is there any way for England to turn this tournament around?
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me. Darling, there's no danger.
The sun is shining, it's a beautiful morning, the birds are singing. It's the day after the night of England versus Denmark. How are you, Nick?
I'm very good. I'm very good. I'm um over my hangover. I'm
Yeah,
over the memeage of Sir Gareth. I'm over the result. I'm ready to get hurt again.
ready to okay. Okay. That's good to hear. I'm looking forward to a beautiful weekend ahead, I think. And well, by the time this comes out, the weekend may even be over. But that's just personal stuff, isn't it? We're here to talk about the football, really. There's a lot for us to get into from our England hats, with our England hats on. But last time we were recording, it was during the Turkey Georgia game, so it would
Mm.
appear we missed the game of the tournament so far, which is typical.
And we also, you informed me it was 2-1, which was my I've done like a predictor with some friends, and I had 2-1 in that game, and you informed me it was 2-1 going into the 98th minute. So internally I was just like, fucking yes, that's 4 points on the board for Nick. And Turkey scored again in
Yeah.
the seconds after you had stopped looking at that bit of the screen. So I went down to an incorrect score. So that was great.
Oh, that's rubbish. Yeah, you say great, but I can sense because I'm quite good at picking up on these things. That was sarcasm.
Well done.
We were looking ahead to the arrival of Ronaldo and Portugal in the tournament as well. Last time we spoke, they picked up a win, didn't they? A 2-1 win.
Yeah, really late against Czechia. Yeah, they just about got there. My favorite part of that game was when Jota scored
I know.
and it was ruled out. But in between those two things happening, he started on the Czech keeper
Yeah.
just so he could get the ball, so he could put it under his stomach to do his stupid celebration. It got ruled out anyway.
It,
And it's
it,
like
it was
you have
yeah.
proper shown some colours there.
Yeah, it was under the shirt for about a second and then he just booted it. Proper Liverpool vibes there. I've got to say, it reminds me of when Salah was trying to nab the ball off Bruno Fernandes and it was United's goal kick. It's like, hang on,
Yeah.
we can this week. No, it was a kick off because Liverpool had scored. It's like, hang on, we can bloody, take our little time here. We're not exactly killing the game anyway. Ronaldo has arrived. Germany have continued to look spot on. I think that well, they are the first team to qualify.
Hmm.
Musiala coming in with a second good performance in a row, which he's starting to look like if Germany go far, he could be key to that. Um, and yeah, they're not the Germany of Euro 2021, are they?
No, not at all. No, they seem back to the real deal, which is unfortunate.
How
Like
did they do
in
it?
terms of
That
just
was it. That was their
yeah.
lowest one loss to England in like a round of 16, and they're like, no way, this
That,
shot.
that 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 can never happen again. It was like when England. It was always when England beat them in a tournament. So
Yeah,
that happened after Euro 2000 as well, and they like righted that shit by winning the last ever game at Wembley and then getting to a World Cup semi-final, getting to a final with a shit team.
I know. Yeah. Well, else speaking of getting to a final with a shit team, Croatia. Cast your mind back to the World Cup semi-final 2018. They've pretty much got the same team as then. They've proven that old guys can't rule forever, though. One
Get out of the
point
way,
after two
boomers.
games. I know, yeah. Uh, Luka Modric dropping to his knees and simultaneously not looking that arsed either, at the end of the game.
He knows
Um,
he's got another tournament in him anyway.
yeah, and let's face it, they're probably not guaranteed out yet, are they?
No, I think that the end of that game, by the way, was amazing. That Albania game. It was
Yeah.
just like even I think it was Andros Townsend. I think it was. It's hard because I keep wanting to say Andy Townsend, but Andros Townsend was on the co-coms, And when it went to full time, he just went, "Oh no!" It was like actually like people coming through him, and that's exactly how the nation felt as they were watching it.
There was also that Danny Murphy moment in the Portugal game
Oh, he's
where
been busy.
the commentator was going, "Can Portugal find a way through?" Like as they did, and he just went, "Yes." And the
He
ball
had
went,
he had a cracking night. He did. But I think Rafael Leao was booked, I want to say, for diving. But as it happened beforehand, he was just like, he saw a yellow card being brandished and he was like, yeah, spot on that. Then he saw it being given to the hour and he was like, yeah, right decision. That was definitely. And then I think Portugal left it really late to make their subs. And he was just like, I never understand this. Why are there being people on so late? Which I agree with. Like, he could have made three of the changes earlier. And then that sub scored in the last second.
yeah, yeah. It's just not happening for him,
Yeah.
old Murphy. Spain demolished Italy 1-0. Quite a good performance. Cucurella absolutely showing England what can happen if you've got a left back. I just love the people who come up good in tournaments, and especially this one. It seems it's a lot of forgotten manage.
If he had just shaved his head, he would get so less stick. But
Yeah.
because like we've all been through the David Luiz experiment, everyone just is like, "What a fucking idiot that bloke is!"
I
And like
also
clearly good player.
yeah, you're just drawing attention to yourself, so the mistakes are just going to be confirmation bias, isn't it? Silly hair, silly man.
Yeah, when you like throw your arms in the air and shake your head, like that's way more visible because you've got that hair. So
Yeah.
people are just like, look, like just like drawn to it like a fire.
Yeah, I thought Italy looked. Oh, I mean, I know Spain were by far the better team, but again, as we said with Germany, Italy don't look like the team that England easily dispatched in qualifying. They just look a bit
Mm,
stronger, and it's just like, what? How do these other countries do it? I mean, Italy lost, so I'm hesitant to big them up too much. But I was watching it thinking they're not bad. They're
mm.
very much not losing 3-1 to England in a qualifier bad,
No,
and
no,
scraping
definitely not.
through.
Are they? I wonder when their next game is because I mean that's going to be Italy, Croatia. I mean, in theory, that sounds good. In
Yeah,
reality, whether it ends up being good and Croatia just win and sneak through 1-0, like really late on, that's kind of where I'd be putting my money.
that's 8 o'clock on Monday. That game is 24
Okay, that's
hours.
good then.
24 hours before England.
D-Day.
Don't say bloody D-Day, Jesus Christ. And last night, prior to recording anyway, France were held to a 0-0 against the Netherlands, a game which I saw precisely zero of. I'm glad by the score that I didn't spend my Friday night watching that. And yeah, I mean, just on paper, Netherlands nil, France. I know it's an Mbappe list, France, but we've said plenty of times France are just uncrowned champions of this tournament and should probably have won the World Cup as well. So good result for the Netherlands and maybe a sign for other teams that France aren't impossible to kind of get something against. And when you couple that up with the previous game where was it Austria?
Yeah, Austria. And Austria won their game as well against Poland 3-1. And I think afterwards it was said that because I didn't watch much of it. I was around my partner's parents' house and I think her dad had got it on in the other room while we were watching like, Isle of Wight or something like that.
Yeah.
And the streets are on. My skin is withered, I must say. He's
Oh
aged
no.
he's aged a little bit. Like he hadn't aged for 20 years. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh, high def this
Yeah, yeah.
camera, isn't it?
Oh, that's a shame. That's a
He still,
shame.
he still looks fine, but it's just kind of like, ooh, thinning at the back a bit, and upper shirt size. I'm not one to talk, absolutely not about that. But yeah. So we had, basically, I think the Netherlands game though had like a VAR controversy
Oh, okay.
about whether a goal should have stood because a player was standing quite close to the opposition keeper and the shot went in, and the Netherlands should have had a goal. Really, guess the nationality of the people on the VAR and the ref.
English.
Correct.
Oh yes, yes, we are smashing it this tournament.
Making our impact.
Yeah. Well, just a little wider note on the tournament I wanted to bring to people's attention is just prior. So going back to the very first game, actually, Germany versus Scotland, I was watching the build up, and there was quite a lot of adverts and talk about AliExpress. They had an advert with David Beckham in. And I think they are like the main sponsor of the tournament, or at least one of the primary sponsors. That they are
They're up
everywhere.
there, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and me and my partner were talking like we've never heard of this. What is like? It's fine that we've not heard of something that's sponsoring the tournament, but is it something new that's going to be massive in a couple of months' time, or what? What is it? And we both kind of pontificated, I guess, on it and came to the conclusion it's probably like DHgate or Timo or something like that, like one of these marketplace websites, that in theory can operate like a big Etsy or support independent businesses or even other businesses and use it as a platform, but in reality is a place for fake shoes and sunglasses. Anyway, so I Googled the whole point of this is just to raise awareness, people, because I don't want people to get scammed. I googled AliExpress, and prior to even any links to the page, that it was like the sponsored results were at the top, and there were two items, and you could scroll across for more, but the two headline items that came right up at the top. One was, I think, an £18,000 water slide with like 5 slides going down. Massive, bigger than my house, no doubt about that, if it's real, which I doubt it is. And the second item was a huge gorilla sofa. So like the gorilla was the back and his arms were like the armrests, and that was 8 grand.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is this what is this company? I know that's high value products being sold. Further investigation this uncovered that you can buy prefab boxed up houses on there, like houses from the future.
Also, like I just googled it just to see what comes up again, and there's a retro 1994 Roberto Baggio shirt, £18.71, not bad,
not bad.
But then you've also got portable villa, prefabricated, foldable luxury living, 4.5 grand.
I can see that, and you've got the first thing that comes up for me is a car boat. Literally 2023 Ocean Jet car boat, speed boats for it looks like a Lamborghini that you can take on the water. So
see, I actually, because you told me about this and we called it the Amazon for oligarchs, and I actually had to try and find something yesterday. I think we mentioned before, I'm going to Glastonbury next week, and usually we take like a little truck with us on really good wheels to be able to put all of our stuff on it. We can take it in the queue and just not use it for the rest of the week then. Something's missing off it, so we needed to buy a new one, and I needed it to be delivered like within a day, basically. So I thought Amazon wasn't helping me, the B&Q sites, all that kind of stuff, wasn't really finding much. And I thought, you know what? AliExpress. Let's see what this brings up. Wasn't useful. I went AliExpress UK site. I clicked on the link and it took me to a search on their website for UK site.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's been created by AI.
Yeah, definitely.
Like all this, and it just doesn't work properly. I don't know. Maybe AliExpress is going to be massive, but I also feel like it's going to fold within 3 months of the competition.
Yeah, well, if Beckham's involved, that can be an indicator sometimes. I thought you were in the pocket of AliExpress for a moment then, that they'd got to you. And you know what? I used it and bloody great service.
Great service was there as soon as I clicked it.
Just one more thing on that. The water slides I mentioned, £18,000. If you buy 5, you get 5% off. So use the code Is This England, Ali? And yeah, you get there. Right, we can't put it off any longer. England played Denmark on Thursday at 5 p.m. It was a game that I was really looking forward to. I felt the Serbia performance wasn't great, but the result was fine, and it was the opening game. I think there were some positives to take from that and some negatives, but mainly a lot of mystery in terms of, is this what we're capable of only, or is this the start? Are we in second gear? Are we going flat out? And the lineup was exactly the same. So I know you were in a bit of a situation in terms of you'd organised a viewing party for the game, and there were some technical hiccups occurring, which is always stressful. But aside from that, or you may even want to talk a little about that, what were your thoughts prior to the game? Were you looking forward to this one or a bit hesitant?
think just because of stuff we put on, like you say, and we put on like a viewing party for work and clients and things like that. And I arrived 2 days before the game at the venue to just try and have a look at it. And their projector was about half the size of the screen, and I just did not want that to be the thing. So I brought our own projector, brought my own laptop, and basically had to use one of our guys' internet off their phone to be able to make sure the game like buffered correctly because their internet was poor as well. So I was just a traveling mobile of England, basically, just wherever I was needed, I could bring an England game to someone.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So I think half the game I was watching, the other half, well, another half I was kind of talking to people and whatever, and the other half I was just like praying and looking at the screen, going, "Please don't buffer, please don't die." And
Yeah.
but at full time, I think I was the only happy person in England because I was just like, "It's over." Like I don't have to keep looking at the screen, going, "Is that going fuzzy? Am I going to get
Yeah.
blamed for this?"
Oh, fair play. Well, a quick rundown, I guess, run through the game. I'd say the pitch was an issue from the start. Kyle
Hmm.
Walker kind of went down injured and was okay, thankfully. And a few players were slipping. That was kind of evident. It was a bit of a slow start to the game, but it wasn't too long before Harry Kane got off the mark. Denmark would kind of start to control the ball a little bit more and get their kind of mark on the game before smashing in a lovely goal, an equaliser.
Yeah.
Phil Foden hit the post as England kind of started to come back a little bit after half time. But then Denmark kind of wrestled it back. Subs started. Connor Gallagher came on first for Trent. And then there was a triple sub with Watkins, Bowen, and Eze replacing Foden, Saka, and Kane. That was with about 20 minutes to go. And funnily enough, the game just kind of petered out. That's a very top line summary as to what happened. I probably missed a couple of things, but there you go. Nick, you got your requested gentleman's 1-1. You predicted the score and said you'd be very happy with it. After the game, now, how do you feel about the result and how do you feel about the performance? Because we're going to have to talk about the performance in some detail.
Yeah, definitely. I think I said on the last one, I would take your gentleman's 1-1
Yeah,
and take the week of silliness from everybody if that meant that people weren't happy with the performance, which is exactly what happened.
yeah,
Um, Even like the highlight of the game, which was the Kane goal, I actually couldn't end up enjoying. I was stood next to someone who had put a bet on during the game.
yeah.
I didn't play a bet with a couple of things, and he looked at his phone at one point and said, "Oh, because I think Harry Kane had a shot from like way outside the box. It was blocked." And he was like jokingly, "Oh, wonder if this counts as that shot." He looked at his phone and he was like, "Wait a minute. Harry Kane shot on target. I didn't. Oh, that counts. So how on earth is that working?" And then he saw next to his other bet, which was Saka to score first, had been crossed out, and he just
Yeah.
went, "Wait a minute. Unless they're about to score," and we looked up and England scored. So even the
Spoilers.
highlight of the game, I didn't get to enjoy because it was like, "Oh, we know what's about to happen now." So that was fun as well. Yeah, the performance itself in general, I didn't think was great. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it was. England just couldn't control the ball. They couldn't bring any tempo into their game. Seemed to just lose it coming out from the back a lot, which is kind of like not something I'd always think about with England.
Yeah.
I don't think they're like amazing at kind of like bringing the ball out and transitioning it forward, but they did just seem to be, and I think we've seen it enough in recent times, a lot of Man United trying to do that, just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
having, seemingly not having the players to do it or like the setup to do it. When you've
Yeah.
got like someone like an Alexander Arnold who kind of you just need that position, no matter who's there, needs to kind of be next to Declan Rice, not ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's what's going to help with that game. But again, Rice wasn't at his best at all, and I think that was a big problem. Yeah, as
I,
he's been pretty much great for England throughout his career so far.
Yeah, I think that was his worst game I've ever seen him play, which is
Yeah.
fine. That it has to be a certain game. I wouldn't go too harsh on him. I think the result, the 1-1, is fine. Like that is, I put in. There were group chats going berserk in the minutes like after full time, talking like the actual first 10 minutes after full time,
Mm.
and I just put in all I'll say in mitigation because that wasn't good and I can't say that it was, but all I'll say in mitigation is Denmark are a good team. and somebody just went, "Come on, mate," and I was like,
Like they're at this tournament on merit. They got to the semi-final of the last Euros. I know they didn't do great at the last World Cup, but exactly, Denmark aren't shit. Like they
"Yeah,
aren't this awful team. I know they didn't play well against Slovenia, but I think Slovenia have shown that they're probably a little bit better than what people thought, and they're not just going to be the whipping boys of the group. Really, they could have won both their games. And
And this was a semi-final last time, obviously. I didn't
yeah.
even realize, just as an aside, this game was followed by Spain, Italy, which was the semi-final in the same tournament as well.
Oh yeah, of
So we
course
had
it
them
was.
both
Yeah.
back to back.
I think so,
Um,
yeah. And then obviously you've got like we said about not an ideal result and all that kind of thing, or ideal performance anyway. It took like I think England, like you said, they scored. They had the chances afterwards. Actually, in the game, Phil Foden hit the post. Ollie Watkins had a really good chance actually when he came on. I
yeah,
think there
I
was
thought
a header at the far post for Saka as
the
well. So
Saka one was good. Yeah,
you could have actually seen England scoring a few more goals. Now, whether again that would have papered over the cracks and all that stuff, I totally get it. But Denmark's goal was maybe the best placed shot I've ever seen in my life. Like genuinely, like you could say, all right, maybe someone could get out to him a little bit quicker, but you're talking milliseconds here, and there is no way Pickford can get to that in time. It comes through so many players, and it nestles in the side netting of the corner. And
yeah.
then what Denmark have another chance, maybe. And that
Mm,
maybe even the one I'm thinking of came from Mark Gahey, who again played well, but probably had a more of a shaky game overall.
yeah,
And I think it just does stem to like England have been sloppy at this tournament so far, and I think they've not gotten away with it, but they've seen that through. It's to me now it is all right. What do we do to right this a mini wobble? But it's not been treated as a mini wobble. I feel like people have properly lost their minds about this.
yeah. Well, we'll have a look at reaction and stuff, but it's probably
Mm,
best to stick with the game a little
yeah,
longer. Maybe talk about some individual performances. I think we've kind of mentioned Declan Rice there. One I wanted to bring up, I think I'm the only one who's saying this, and that's fine. I could be very wrong. I feel like John Stones is not like having a great I mean, he looks tired out there,
mm,
and I don't know. Like, is he? It's probably not an issue when there's so many other issues, and we've got such a thin kind of defense in terms of who to bring in. But I don't know why. I just feel like he's a bit of a problem. I think he's doing really well and kind of outshining him. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you think that's just an isolated one for me?
I know. I think we said before the tournament, John Stones has not played a lot of football
Yeah,
since the end of February, I think it was, or the end of March. Like he just hasn't. Like he's been out of the Man City team. I don't even know if he's completed a 90 minutes since then. So actually, this is like a totally different thing for him coming back into a team who needs him so much. In terms of there's no Harry Maguire. I
yeah.
feel like I'm not saying England are missing Maguire, but maybe just one of those personalities on the pitch, just to say, right, fucking get up the pitch, because that was something as well where you were hearing about apparently in the post match, which I didn't see because I was busy, obviously, that someone asked Gareth Southgate, are you telling them to drop this far back? And he said no.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so he clearly is needing maybe some more people on that pitch who are going to be able to either carry out his instructions or to remind players of that, because he's clearly not happy, and he was constantly saying energy, energy. We need more, to
yeah.
do about this kind of thing too. And maybe a Maguire not being there. I think I listened to something the other day that said maybe a Henderson. And I'm not saying
Oh,
that, yeah, but in terms of like an
I know.
influence on the pitch or at
Yeah.
least around the team or something, maybe the characters with the this new squad that Southgate has brought in and the new players that everyone did want, maybe they're just not that level of a leader yet to be able to actually put their personality on a team. I don't know.
Very good points, kind of well made there. I think kind of leads us nicely on to Jude Bellingham, who had a very quiet game and is somebody who's trying to lead the team in his own way. I definitely don't want to jump on his back, but I didn't think he was good at all. And
No.
uh, yeah, potentially there's a danger there of him trying to be the only man in the team. But we'll see. I guess on that one, it's just a shame for him to follow up such a good start against Serbia with such a quiet kind of game against Denmark when
I
it was
think it, I
needed.
think I think it's also the fact that I think we've always praised him for looking like a man on the pitch for the boys or the biggest boy in the playground who just kind of takes the ball and does that. You do get days when the biggest boy in the playground does get done.
Yeah.
I remember a time in the playground when I was playing football. There was a lad who went on to play professional football, just against one of my mates, and like he would keep getting tackled by him.
Yeah.
And it was like my mate was not great at football. He was fine, but it was the fact that like this lad, literally, as soon as he ever got the ball on this one day, just kept pointing at my mate, going, "Right, you come here," just to try and like take him on again, and he still couldn't. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just go, you know what? It's
We've
not
all
going to
seen that,
happen.
haven't we? That yeah. And yeah, I just hope that the pressure which he seems to be able to deflect so well doesn't start to overwhelm.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to talk about the left hand side of England as well. Trippier and Foden. Again, we reference Man United quite a lot because that's our team. I'm getting a bit Lindelof and Lindelof and Anthony down the left vibes or wherever United had for a few games there. It's just probably not working very well. That it's not really a partnership as such,
Mm.
and I know they're hard to build in international football. But yeah, it's almost like we don't have a left wing, which is a bit of a concern. I know last time we were talking, I was saying about Foden, definitely worth sticking with because he's good enough, and I thought he was probably one of the better players, if not England's best player in the game. He was at times the only one coming for the ball and asking for it and trying to do stuff with it. Obviously, he had a shot that hit the post. Um, what do you think of that left hand side? Can we change it? Should we change it? Do we need to take a gamble there if we're going to probably have to take some elsewhere as well?
I think it's just a bit of a mess, and some of that is the way that England have decided they want to play, and by England I mean Southgate, and some of it is just like there's literally no left backs. Because if you bring Joe Gomez in for Trippier, that's not solving the problem. That's still a right-footed
Yeah,
player from defence who does not play left back by choice.
yeah,
Like he wouldn't put that on his like job description if he had to do one. Like, yep, left back, I'll tick that box. And then Foden, obviously, like I just said, he's there to try and get the best, to basically try and fit him in the team because they can't not play Bellingham because of what Bellingham has done for England and Foden is yet to do consistently for England. I
yeah.
feel like it's been worth the experiment to try them both there, and I don't particularly think it's much that Foden has done wrong, but I do feel like maybe you either play him on the right so he can cut in and kind of do that thing that he wants to do, and you don't play Saka, or you play an Anthony Gordon who's going to bring energy, who's going to bring directness in running at the team, and actually he can kind of help and support Trippier as well. So I think that's the kind of the two options for me with what you do. Again, nothing particularly wrong that Foden's done, and he's played well for England on the left wing in past tournaments. In the last tournament, he did.
Mm.
So I think it's just a bit of a set of things. I don't even know if Luke Shaw is going to be back fit for that next game.
He's not. I don't think. I'm pretty sure that they've said he's not.
And that to me just does highlight a little bit of like, right, why did Mitchell not get like a go
Yeah,
beforehand? Like to
yeah.
me, he was the key one, not key one, but I don't. We're not going to lose this tournament. I'm not taking Mitchell to it, but he would at least be now in that conversation of right. A sensible thing to do is to bring a left-footed player who likes going forward,
Plays
try and create the
alongside
space
Gay
for
as well.
Foden, plays alongside Gay exactly, and there's even talk I saw the other day of like, oh, who would have been a good call actually, Lewis Hall, and
Yeah, I
it's
saw
like
that.
you are literally just naming left-footed English people now. Like it's
Yeah,
got to that level, and you know what? Whenever I've seen him, I thought he looked really, really good. Like I think he scored two bangers against Man United that I've been at one of the games for as well. And but at the same time, if he gets picked and he's played about, I don't know, I think he started maybe 10 games for Newcastle this season.
yeah,
And it's just like, really, no, like I'm not trying to be smart after the event at all. I just don't think that was ever going to be because he played so little, him being actually picked and then picked over probably some quite senior players would have been not a good look. It would have been like, what is he doing? So I think
yeah.
something's got to change there. I don't think it can be Trippy. I think it's probably got to be Foden, and you probably bring in Gordon in. And I think we said as well that I don't think that I don't think that Arnold has been particularly bad, but I will say that I think that experiment should be over for now because of the problems that having him in the team has caused. England needs someone to look after the ball more. And I don't think it's Arnold, and I don't think it's Gallagher.
Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. So it's Mainu or Wharton then,
Yeah,
or
yeah, to
yeah,
me, yeah, because they can actually look after the ball. They're quite, press resistant. They're comfortable on it as well.
yeah.
And I think they're just going to be a better fit for England. And I don't particularly mind which one plays because
No.
it's. I think they both bring really good attributes to the side and can make England tick a bit better.
Oh, well, I'm getting a little bit excited. Actually, that's the wrong feeling, isn't it? Harry Kane scored off the mark for the tournament and was subbed with 20 minutes to go when we were drawing 1-1. I mean, we can talk about Kane, but shall we talk about the. Let's talk briefly about Kane. No, let's briefly talk about the triple sub and what
Mm,
that kind of said to you. And then we can talk about Kane a bit more specifically. So I was very excited with the triple sub just because it's an
mm,
exciting thing to happen. And I was like, this is exactly what Southgate doesn't do. And
mm,
he's doing it. What does that say about the game that we're in at the moment? Like, is he like, this is shocking and they need
mm.
something new? Did he plan this? I'm also a bit. He went with Bowen and Eze, and I kind of think I don't know what the logic would be for this, and it's probably not the case anyway. But I'm a little bit thinking that is he giving because I thought if there was anyone in this squad who's not going to get minutes, it's Bowen, and
Me
and
too. I
and
didn't
he's
even have him going when we
and
did
he's
our thing.
coming on 2 games in. Is he saving his better subs for later in the tournament? Do you know what I mean? Is he keeping
Mm.
like Cole Palmer? Is he getting Cole Palmer to the point where he's like ravenous to get on the pitch and he's going to try and have an impact? Is
Just
he is
winding
he
him up.
is he giving Anthony Gordon a little rest with the thought in mind of giving him a more frequent role? And is he saying to Bowen and Eze, if it gets to a semi final, I'll bring on Cole Palmer to be honest. But you're here and I'd like you to do well and go out and prove me wrong in the early stages if you can, because you're going to get that chance? Or does he genuinely think at the moment they are better options and they give us the best chance of winning this game?
Yeah, it's strange. The triple sub I was a bit confused about just because you're changing your entire front three.
Yeah.
And I think doing that in one swift go, in theory, is exciting. But in theory, you've got three, you say fresh players, but you've got three new players on the pitch who have all got to get into the game at the same time. I think if you're going to do it, you'd think that at least when you would like mix it up with maybe you change your midfielder or something like that. But doing them all at once, I guess he had to do it. Like in his eyes, like the Foden and Saka just weren't working. Kane is looking quite slow in terms of like the way he did at Euro 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
In terms of he came back and was rushed back and like kind of stumbled his way and bobbled his way through the group stages until he kind of slightly started to come alive a bit more in the knockouts. I think
Mm.
England are just hoping for that in the minute. He did have an injury with Bayern at the end of the season, and they're hoping to get him back. And maybe it is just a case of him being a bit tired and them saving it. I've got no problem with them bringing him off because Watkins can come on and Watkins can maybe do something similar. You're really picking hairs when you're going, well, should he bring on Tony or should he bring on Watkins? At the end of
Mm.
the day, I know they're different players, but they're still just forwards anyway. The Palmer stuff I don't quite get because to me, like you said, I just don't get that how Jared Bowen is your second best option from the right. And I know Palmer started off on the right for Chelsea and he went more central as the season went on, but he clearly can play there.
Yeah.
And he's clearly is a player who just makes stuff happen. And you don't
Mm.
want like these individual players to come on and it's all on them now to do it. But you feel like Palmer's got that attitude where maybe he could impose himself on a game more than Bowen.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kane, do you see much of how concerned are you with Kane? Because I think and we'll come on to reaction soon, but Gary Lineker in particular was quite uh no, I don't even know what the word is. I'd say critical, quite
Mm,
critical of Kane's performance, saying, the team isn't great, but he's not helping himself or the team really. And he needs a bit of a kick up the arse because he's not making the runs, or he is making them, but they look a bit laboured. Obviously, Southgate is going to stick with Kane, and that's fine, and that's what I think he should do. But is he a worry?
I don't know, just because we've seen this Harry Kane before when he has been injured so much coming into tournaments or not looked fit or played way too many games. And this is almost just like tournament Kane. in terms of this. I think actually he had probably his best tournament for England at the last World Cup when he was really good, got
Yeah,
a couple of goals, but he was actually. I think we always think like the best of Kane for England was when he has two runners off him, making the runs in behind. And one of them is obviously Saka, who's still playing, but kind of that's the only outlet because Foden just isn't that type of player.
yeah,
Maybe you bring in your Gordon to make Kane come alive as well. I mean, there's been a lot of rhetoric now behind of like, oh, I can't believe he's not taking Rashford now. And it's
yeah.
just
I
like,
saw that.
well, at the same time, and I know we'll come on to reactions in a minute, people were screaming for him not to pick these type of players.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, the ones who have just done well for him in the past, and Gordon is the brave choice. Now, not playing Gordon is the kind of the eyebrow raising thing to me.
mm,
And maybe it is just a case of in game he thinks Eze is kind of that jinky player who's going to make something happen because it does seem like that what like he is that kind of player, but no Gordon and no Palmer is a surprise. I think Kane will be fine. I don't think you should be dropping England's all-time top scorer who scored about 1 million goals in the Bundesliga,
mm,
and all this kind of stuff. I think it's just a case of I think if you keep playing him and England stay in the competition long enough, he'll score, which he already has. He nearly and pretty much should have had a goal in the opening game as well,
yeah, yeah.
if he went for that good save onto the bar. So I'm not as worried, even though I saw BBC polls saying, "Is it time to drop Kane?" and the Gary Lineker stuff and all this. I'm just like,
Is
wow,
is it more of a thing where Safegate's kind of going, if it's not working for you, then I'm not, you can come off, and I just don't
yeah,
want that to be a big thing because Kane's obviously, like you say, gone into tournaments in the past, struggling with fitness. He is again, and if we're going to get to a semi-final or a final, do you want Harry Kane completely destroyed by that stage, or could you try and preserve him a little in the group stage? Because this wasn't a great performance and it was a fine result, probably a good result on the balance of things. But it's the first two games, and tournaments aren't won in the first two games. So if he's, I could be completely wrong, but if he's trying to just keep a little bit of Kane freshness back, if he's trying to, um, hold Cole Palmer back just a little bit and use him at the right time while giving other squad players a game, because if we needed Jared Bowen in like a quarter final or a semi final for one reason or another, do you want that to be his first kick of the tournament? Um, maybe he needs a little bit more time to get adjusted. I don't know, but
yeah. I think he don't. If you remember though, in the Scotland England game, which again I think we've all just have to agree now, the price for winning your opening game in a big tournament under Southgate means that the second game is going to be fucking terrible, and
yeah,
we're all not going to enjoy it. And that's exactly what's happened now for the last three tournaments.
yeah. Don't
So that's
make big plans for those games. No box park. No,
no,
going,
no,
booking an event or nothing.
no, none of that silly stuff. But if we remember, I do remember as well in that Scotland game, Kane was subbed off in that as well. I think it was for Dominic Calvert-Lewin at the time.
Mm.
So I think it's just have a bit of a thought of like you say. I think it should be the case where he shouldn't feel like Kane has to stay on for the entire game if he's not playing well, not getting the chances, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
to me, I think save him as much as you can.
Yeah, and it's all the argument against that is, well, if England falls to somebody in the 90th minute, who else would you want in the squad other than Kane to finish that?
Yeah,
But Ollie Watkins is a good striker. He's banged in enough goals this year. That's not going to be the. People might say it's the difference if we were to go out and there's a missed chance. But there's a long way to go before we get to a
yeah,
situation like I've said semi-finals about 10 times so far on this point, and there's absolutely no guarantee we'll get there.
no,
Let's have a look at the reaction to the game then say very quickly. This could take a while. It felt like this is, well, I think it's probably undoubtable that this is the darkest day for people like you and myself, Safegate supporters. And I will admit, I've found it hard to square that off in my mind in the days since, in terms of, you know, the only thing I keep going back to is if he's not the right man, I couldn't tell you who is.
yeah,
But he, more so than the first game, he took a lot of the stick. I haven't seen much about individual players other than, like you say, a little bit of Kane, a
Hmm.
couple of Declan Rice memes, and some anger about one or two individuals. But it has all been on Safegate. But before we get too deep into the mental side of things, I would like to just caveat it that people are always mental and they'll say
Mhm.
crazy things. Um, you've got also though like the news outlets and the pundits now kind of firmly rooting in the camp of this is a terrible England tournament performance and we're not good enough. And some of that, or all of that, or a lot of that has to be put on the manager. I think there was an article in The Guardian England were too bad to be boring.
Mm.
Um, they're just saying as well that we look a mess with no
There was a
midfield.
particular Jonathan Liu piece, which, just his writing in general, I know people are a fan of him, but it is the
Annoying.
smuggest writing
Yeah,
I've ever seen of like anyone following any form of sport,
yeah,
and just kind of the most like eyebrow in the air for his photos, kind of like writing, and it just is so up its own arse a lot of the time.
mm,
And like it just that kind of writing just revels in these things. Like these things are ready to go. I think we
yeah,
said that after the at half time during the Iceland friendly, that piece came out about, oh, is Kobe Minu good enough? And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, at half time, that's what it is. So, I think, from that side, people are waiting for this from whether it be media, whether it be pundits, whether it be fans. People have kind of like saved this up. This was like Christmas. This was like when the election was called, and it was just kind of like I was in the cinema and I came out, I looked at my phone, and like the memeage was like enormous about
Yeah.
all this. And it's like when these kind of events happen, it feels like the creativity and the piss taking of everybody just rises so much. And I can get that because it's fun. And that's why people do this kind of thing. It's not fun to actually sit here and go, yeah, that wasn't very good, that was it. Like that's not entertaining. And I totally get the reasoning behind that. But I found like I didn't look at my phone from when the full time had stopped, really. I didn't look at my on Twitter. I didn't look at like my messages or anything like that. So I woke up in the morning and the first thing that I saw on Twitter was Gareth Southgate's head photoshopped on Bin Laden's body. And I was
Yeah.
just like, what's going on? Like, what have I missed?
It's surely a reference to football terrorism, which is a
I
phrase.
mean, I never knew that was a phrase. So,
Yeah, yeah. It's and yeah, a lot of stuff about Southgate wears a helmet when he's on his Peloton, just all and his Tesco meal deal is ham, water, and ready salted crisps, and
I
it's
mean,
just
I'd also say my favorite one that I really laughed at was Gareth Southgate wears a high vis to go into the loft.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Saw
Also,
that one.
I took umbrage with one of them that said Gareth Southgate puts his phone on battery saving mode on 99%. I would do that.
I always have my
Like,
phone on battery saving mode.
always,
Yeah,
it's constantly on.
I don't see the point in not having it on battery saving mode.
Yeah, I agree. I get this, but I had a look at some of the other ones as well. Obviously, when dominoes get involved, something's gone really bad.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like they got involved with like an absolute. I mean, it's a Domino's shop, and it's got like the pizza production. And there's fire, and there's people on the floor, and all this. It's like if Southgate ran a Domino's, I'm like, someone ran that Domino's for you, and you're taking the piss out of it. Okay, fine. That's the people you employ.
I know. Yeah,
Um, well, I think there was there was just some other crazy ones, and obviously like people are just going, "What is he doing?" And then you get like the takes from people who think that they know football, like the proper perverts in this kind of thing, and like their blue tick, you can always tell,
mm,
and the picture is always a footballer as well, of whatever club they support, and it's proper like tacticos online, and there's been a bit of a backlash to them this tournament, and
yeah.
in terms of like, you know what, I'm bloody sick of Guardiola Arteta football. What we love, big men in the box, stick it in the mixer, all that. And I saw like a couple of posts of that, and I was like, oh, that's quite funny. And then on like the fifth day of the exact same post getting like massive numbers, it was a bit okay. We've all had our fun.
Yeah.
Let's not think about that anymore. But I think I sent you one last night that suggested start Wharton alongside Rice, no problem. Minu at right back, mental.
Yeah.
Walker at left back. Oh no, sorry, Walker sent home to Manchester. I've seen other ones that have said I'll start Carl Walker at left back, a position he's never played in his life.
Yeah.
Start Foden up at 10. Okay, not bad. Start Bowen on the left. Again,
Why?
don't think he's ever played there in his entire life. Watkins up top. Ponce at left back.
Yeah.
Again, a position he rarely plays in his existence. And Tom Heaton in goal, who's not in the squad.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to, well, there's potentially a lot that needs to change, but the majority of that is mental. I
Yeah.
think the negativity is severe, and I just have to do say I do understand it. I think it's very realistic possibility that this tournament ends with a whimper, and we'd have to say already, and it could carry on this way or get worse. There's question marks about some of Southgate's decisions. I've kind of backed him, and I like a lot of them on paper, and it then comes down to how they play out. You could also say shit happens, but England fans just don't accept that. I think in terms of reaction as well, it's potentially worth just mentioning. I think it was an interview last night, or some quotes that came out last night from Declan Rice saying that the players are feeling the pressure probably more than before,
Mm.
and I think that's probably an issue. There was another podcast we listened to. It might have been the Ramble where they were saying if that is the case, Southgate's probably a good man to have in there because he will like relieve the pressure a little bit and hopefully
Mm.
like try and level every. Whereas if it was like an Antonio Conte type in
Yeah.
there, the pressure would just be ramped up and up and up. But it feels like that's what people want. Is like somebody to just abuse these players mentally and destroy them.
Yeah, and that's what I don't get either. Like the whole idea behind Southgate being good for England, it really is the fact that he's changed the culture. The players want to play, they play with no fear when they play for England, and they don't feel the pressure. Now it's got to the point where this is a really good England team on paper. There is that pressure and there is that expectation, and they have been made like from first to third favourites at the start of the tournament from various bookmakers around the world.
Yeah,
The time kind of has been now for Southgate and this England team with that culture to deliver. Whether the players are now actually feeling that and realise that they've not won something for a
mm,
long time with England now, Declan Rice will be over 50 caps. I'd imagine even Phil Foden's probably got 40 without making a huge impression on England. Do they feel that pressure now of like, have there been like scars all along, like slowly building up in this England team of like shit failure? It's
yeah.
kind of just been sat there all along and no one's really realized it until now of like two
Oh
not great
God.
performances of like, oh shit, we're in the middle of a horror film here. Kind of like you don't even realize it. So it,
Yeah,
it is a really weird, but I do think Southgate will ask the questions. He will, like you say, calm everybody down, hopefully, whether that be the media or whatever. I'd be one of the only times I will ever listen to a press conference probably is going to be the preview one to this game because I'm actually interested of what he says about the performance that isn't straight afterwards. One thing we've not actually mentioned is that I think he was asked afterwards about the midfield and he says, well, we haven't got a replacement for Calvin
Calvin Phillips.
Phillips. And again, he has had a lot of stick for that too,
I'm glad you
about
brought
like
that up. Yeah, that's a
no,
good. That was a big.
I'd totally forgotten about that until it just came to me then. But then you look at like, I get that. And Calvin Phillips, what he's saying is we haven't got that type of player. Now, maybe he's got that in Wharton. Maybe he's got that in his mind in Gallagher. But to me, Gallagher isn't the player that I'd be wanting to bring on because it's just still the same chaos. If
Yeah,
you're trying to hold on to a game, then yeah, maybe a Gallagher to win the ball and to push England at the pitch. But I don't think he's got the care with the ball compared to a Wharton and a Minu.
yeah,
So, and that's kind of what Phillips gave you. He went with Rice so well, like a good curry, just went straight with Rice, perfect. And it just worked because they did each other's job at the same time as doing their own. And I don't think there's been because Phillips went off and really there's been 4 games for him to experiment with an entirely new midfield and he's tried a lot of different things and he's settled on Arnold. Don't think he can do that anymore.
yeah. Did you see Kyle Walker's interview straight after the game?
I didn't know.
That was quite a good one. He was very much just in the. He was basically just going, look, that wasn't great at
Mm,
all, but we've got 4 points. We threw a tough game, and people expect us, and people expect good teams in football in general to go out and win every game 3 or 4-0, and it's just not football. And all we can do is like try our best, and we know there's a lot higher for us to go that we need to
mm.
do, and that is on us. But at the same time, he just basically the commentator was like, yeah, but do you think if you get so far in the tournament, you might get caught out with a performance like this? And he was like, I just want to just keep focusing on that we've not had a bad start to our tournament
Yeah.
and that Denmark are a good team. And we know like we go away and get the work done sort of thing. So maybe worth a watch actually.
He always does come across like, at least to the media, as a very calming person, doesn't he? I think he even made a comment just before the tournament started about Jack Grealish. You know, he isn't there because he doesn't deserve to be there, because everyone who is at the tournament does deserve to be here. And I
Yeah,
thought that was a really, that's his, club teammate
of
at the end of
course.
the day. And there was a big backlash again from the online City fans of going, get rid of Carl Walker and all that. And they're obviously just the idiot ones, and I get that, but it was amazing that, someone who's kind of been highlighted over the last couple of years of like not having like the most settled personal life you've ever seen ever, to
Mm.
be actually so calm, and a person you can put out in front of the media to be a calming person and a presence.
Yeah, and he came across as quite
Mm,
what he came across as in that post game interview was a professional athlete who was focused on
mm,
the job rather than the noise around it all.
yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for reaction, I think. But we've got to look at the wider reaction in terms of what can England do next. Slovenia, it is 8 p.m.
Hmm.
on Tuesday. Slovenia and Serbia drew 1-1 in the 2 o'clock slot, just ahead of our game against Denmark. A great result for us. But last time we were talking about this, so kind of previewing the Denmark game, we both kind of had it in our heads. Um, a lot of the stuff, a lot of it will be sorted in terms of the group by this stage potentially, and Slovenia is probably the easier of the games, maybe.
Yeah, I think we said that, didn't we?
Yeah, and it's not really looking that way now because I think Slovenia have looked decent enough. Two draws against. I mean, we could have easily drew with Serbia, so that could have been 1-1s all round.
Mm.
In this group, and the top spot isn't as comfortable as it could be, really. So there's a lot more.
Yeah, the England are the only team to have won a game in this group. I mean,
Yeah,
and then that shows you actually. I think we said before the tournament, this group is actually probably the tightest group in terms of like outside of that group of death with the Italy group. I think we said, these teams are probably the most well matched, and I think we've been kind of proven right here. I think it's at the end of the day, it's Slovenia, and they scored their first two goals at a tournament in since God was a boy. So you just got to think England win, go through top of the group. It's in their own hands. I think I had the first two games as going down as a draw in that predicted thing I mentioned, and then England do get past Slovenia, go in as group winners. I think they'd play a third place team if they do go through as well, England.
yeah,
So I think people are almost like already catastrophizing the quarterfinal.
yeah. I
And
saw.
that's not like an arrogance thing of like, oh, well, we're going to get to the quarters. I think they just think that this team is good enough to get there, almost like sleepwalking. It's when you're going to come up against, a Germany or a Spain or whatever. That's kind of what all people are already afraid of.
Yeah. The Slovenia game's actually a big one. I never saw it being a big one, but I do think we talk about when we're previewing the games, what would success look like for England? I think, like you say, I think they have to win and have to win the group for there to be any kind of momentum.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're looking at starting momentum in knockout games, which can happen. But I want it sooner. I want to
Yeah,
enjoy this tournament a
we're
little.
we're impatient. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd like to think, I'm not too impatient, but I really would like to enjoy this tournament. And patience is kind of wearing thin just in terms of you're not guaranteed anything beyond 3 games in a
Hmm.
tournament. So for some countries, some teams, that is all you get. If it was all we got from this tournament, and somehow we conspire to not make it out the group,
I
you
don't
couldn't.
think that's. I don't know if that's possible now, is
No,
it? I mean, I don't think it's possible for England to have
I
four
don't think it
points and
is.
not get through. So I think
But
there is a fourth game
my
that will
point,
be happening, but like it just depends who that is against. Is the worry?
yeah, and my point would more be there's not been anything to enjoy so far. It's not like
Yeah,
that Denmark game. Bloody hell, it was a great game and it was a 1-1 draw, or the first game, it wasn't a win by a big margin or it had much to say about it either. It would just be a bit I mean, there's probably not a positive way to go out of the the group stage,
No.
but I want something to enjoy. Hopefully, this game is it. Do we predict changes?
Yeah, I don't think he'll play Arnold personally. I think it's just time for that experiment to die. In terms of a starting position, maybe you could bring him on a game if you really need something to happen and you want that creative ball. I think you said that it was the worry that he's always going for that and is in a bit of two minds and has been poor. It's got to be Wharton or it's got to be Mainu for me
Yeah,
personally. If he just makes the change of just Gallagher comes in, that's just more of the same chaos in my mind. I do think that is way too conservative
yeah,
for Southgate, for something he has been criticised for. And I guess the brave thing would be, is he going to change Foden? And
yeah,
I don't want to just jump straight back off from what we said last time of I'd be comfortable with Foden starting the next 4 games or whatever we said.
yeah,
But I do think because that left hand side, nothing has come down it for England, and it just has been like a barren wasteland.
yeah,
And you're basically a third of the pitch you're saying doesn't matter, so teams aren't going to like prepare for it. I think just for the sake of the balance in the side, I do think you need to do that. The other option, I guess, is playing Bellingham in midfield and playing him next to Rice and kind
yeah.
of shackling him a bit more, but then playing Foden in that position. But I don't know. I just don't
It's
know if that's the
it's
right way to
like
do it because I don't think Bellingham brings that control in midfield, and I don't think if you bring Foden in a couple of feet, basically, compared to where he's been playing and put him in the middle of the park, England will keep the ball much better.
yeah. I would predict that those two would be the changes, if any. I would, in my mind, say he could maybe go a bit further. I'm a huge Saka fan. Might be a good idea to just give him a little bit of a rest. I think he was carrying an injury. He's not been bad. He's just
Hmm.
been a little bit quiet. But I guess it's kind of assisted or played a part in assisting both goals that we've scored. Um, it's yeah,
It's just
and John,
what do you do there? I guess is on that side. If you do say to Saka take a game out, do you put Foden there where he's been
mm,
again good for City, but it does feel like you're just trying to find a place for fitting him in the team just out in case of backlash. It's getting a bit mixture of Sven and Capello. This for me,
yeah,
like the 2010 World Cup when it was just like two poor results going into a knockout game. I think that was against Slovenia as well.
yeah.
And
We need
just
Jermaine
like
Defoe.
Jermaine Defoe, like he's the new savior. He's the least dickhead out of everybody. Just getting like James Milner playing on the right or whatever it was in that tournament as well. Just like getting through this
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like say, not enjoying a tournament, but also kind of like, well, you've got to find a way of getting Foden on the pitch somehow.
You'd have
It's like if
hoped
it
that
doesn't work for the balance, then it doesn't work.
You'd have hoped we would have been able to experiment a bit more to give players minutes and test things out. But if we do end up experimenting, it's going to be as a backlash to bad performances, and it's going to be
Yeah,
almost
not by a good choice.
punishment experimentation, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said for kind of the players who haven't been given minutes yet to really get a chance in this game. There's also a lot to be said for not making too many changes and potentially blowing it. You know,
Mm.
like the conservative side of Southgate, which does exist. I'm not saying that it doesn't. Could still look at this and be like, what's the minimum we have to do to win
Mm.
the group? How can we just secure that? You know, let's forget about winning 3-0 and 4-0 and getting all the shiny players that people want to see minutes and sending a message to Harry Kane that
Yeah.
you're not being good enough. Um, what's the harm with just trying to just win the group in the most efficient way possible? The harm is potentially just the atmosphere just gets
A
even
riot.
worse.
A
And
riot back in England.
yeah, yeah. And also there's the chance that, you know, I think it affects the team. If they put in another bad performance, they really will start to doubt themselves.
Mm.
Like you say, it's going to be interesting to see in terms of the pre-match kind of conference, and it's a bigger game than I ever thought it would be. This Slovenia one, more in terms of we need to see something different rather than God, it's a must win. Else, it's
Yeah.
I don't want us to finish second because I'm pretty sure that means we play Germany
Yep.
next. Yeah. Nobody's saying that, are they, in the press
I
or
don't know.
anything
I
like
think
that?
it's kind of almost a little bit under everybody's breath. But you
Yeah.
look at Serbia have got 1 point, Denmark have got two. there's at least those Denmark are at least going to be on 3 minimum, really, in terms of like if that's one of them is going to be on 3 or 4. Their points are going to add up. And Slovenia themselves, if we just assume England are going to win, because it's again it's Slovenia. If I'm being very frank,
my mind goes more towards Denmark beating Serbia and England and Slovenia drawing, and then it going down to goal difference.
yeah.
And do Denmark beat Serbia like 3-0, and do England draw 1-1 and finish second in the group
Well,
on goal difference? That's my worry.
England's goal difference is only 1, isn't it?
And
Yeah.
Denmark's is 0.
Yeah. So
So
again, it just depends if England can, if Denmark win by, I don't even know if the goals score would be the same. That's all leveled up then. If it's like, I don't know, like a 0-0 with England or 1-1 or whatever it is,
well,
you are getting into goals scored of who's going to go second or first if that. But
if England draw, then Denmark just need to win by 2.
yeah,
So like that's my worry, is that if we just go a draw is 5 points, I'm just a bit like, I know they're never going to play for a draw, but at what point in the game, if it's not going well, do you go, because then you're looking at, could Slovenia snatch a win? Could Denmark win? And then they're both on 5 and we're on 4.
yeah,
You know what I mean? There's a fair amount of jeopardy, but it goes back to your point of, this is Slovenia and you've got to beat them. And we should, even though we're in like a really negative patch of form and spirit and like support. I'm sure the fans out there, well, I say that the fans booed at the end of the game, didn't they?
The speaker where we were showing the game was not loud enough, which I was informed of many times.
Oh,
So God, I didn't hear it.
I hate that stuff. I was at a party yesterday, and the birthday girl was just like, I'm just knackered just from you gotta. Yeah. And when you organize it something, it's even worse. Like you say, like used to be in a band and stuff like that, and it's just like you turn up and you're trying to focus on one thing, and then you got people going, bloody hell, why points of 5 in here and stuff like that, and I go, what time are you on then? Because I've got to go out in a bit, and it's like, I've been told this time.
Yeah,
It's clearly not going to happen like that.
And
also my guitar's just broke and my amps broke, and I'm pissed.
Yeah, I remember we went to one of your gigs and like did someone jokingly around like break one of your strings right before you went on once?
Probably, mate. If they didn't, I probably did. That was a bit of a curse. I had a bit of a hex over me. Do we want to talk any more preview wise? I don't think there's much I can say about Slovenia other than good striker, good keeper. The rest probably all right as well, but we've got to win.
Yeah, got to win. I think it's that old like in England, like a soccer aid game or something like that, where it was like the rest of the world, or it was Scotland or something like that. It was a charity game basically, and I can't remember who was the rest of the world / Scotland manager, but I remember Terry Venables was the England manager, and the halftime team talk for the one half of the room was, lads, it's them, and and Venables just went, lads, it's us. And that was like all you needed. And I feel like a bit like, lads, it's us. Come on, Slovenia. All due respect, they've been really good this tournament, actually, in comparison to what I thought they'd be, which would be a bit of a whipping, boys. And England, if they don't beat Slovenia, then fine, let the world burn. I can't there's absolutely nothing for me to do, because actually, as soon as that game's over, I'm going to bed. I'm going to Glastonbury the next morning. Fuck it. Like, the world can do whatever it wants. I'm gonna have I'll be deleting my social media for a week and just like immersing myself in a lovely festival shaped bubble. So I'm just gonna be hoping that, like, not hoping, but if the fire lights, I won't be there to see it.
I just want you to picture this: Slovenia go 1-0 up after 15 minutes. And then on 17 minutes, a message comes through that Denmark have taken the lead, and they show the little table as it stands, and England are in 3rd place. We'd still get through. It might be helpful, but there's no reason to actually dwell on that. Let's have some score predictions though. I am going to go 3-0 England.
3-0 England. You predicted a Denmark win last time as well, so it would have been even worse. Like the media outlash has been Denmark won 3-0. That's what this is deserved, compared to England were crap and it was 1-1.
So last time we kind of spoke positively, and then I predicted a loss, and this time we spoke negatively, and I predicted an absolute shellacking. What's yours?
Let's go 2-0 England.
Let's indeed. right then, I don't even know what we're going to do next.
No.
Nick's going to Glastonbury. Yeah, I'll find a way because I'm sure there will be something to react to, and we will find a way to react to it.
And to preview as well, because we pretty much know there is going to be a knockout game. I am not going to be able to watch it because I'm going to be at the festival and they're not showing the England game, which I think I said I agreed with, like the really good decision for that. So what we end up doing could be quite avant-garde. I don't really know because I'm not going to have seen the game. I'm not going to have watched it. I'm not going to have previewed it or anything like that. But I'm sure there'll be some fun we can have along the way with it. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. Okay, well, we'll see you soon.
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me. Darling, there's no danger with all the